Welcome to Lackluster Video, the only video store left on Earth, and I'm the guy stuck working the counter. Today's movie, Joyride. If you're subscribing right now, congrats, you made it before closing time. If you wait any longer, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to smack you with the late fee. It's the rules. So Joyride is an action thriller movie that came out October 5th, 2001. I feel like an October release is perfect for this. While it's mainly a thriller adventure type movie, it feels scary. So it's something that could easily fall in line with the scary movies you put on during Halloween season. I used to watch this movie on repeat as a 10-year-old. So much so that even putting it on 20 years later, I still knew some of the lines from the movie. The casting in this movie was awesome. You could really count the cast on one hand because it's really three actors who drive the whole movie. Unless you want to count Rusty Nail as a fourth, who's basically just a voice. If you don't know, Rusty Nail is a crazed truck driver who crashes out over the huzz, as the cool kids would say. Don't worry, I'll translate it because I'm young and hip and you probably aren't. So, crashing out over the huzz means. Okay, so what that basically. No, he just ends up. I think that he's just willing to kill or do anything over getting played out by a woman. We'll talk about how crazy this shit gets. But even the casting of his voice was great. The voice was portrayed by Ted Levine. So we have Buffalo Bill playing the voice of this movie. Next we have Venna. She's played by Lily Sobieski. She's the love interest to both brothers. Yeah, I'll get into that. We also have Steve Zahn. I love Steve Zahn, especially in this. He brings comic relief, but in the tense moments of the movie, he plays it so well. He really puts you on the edge of your seat. Like, he had me feeling scared shitless a couple times in this movie. I feel like Joyride could have easily been like a mid or trash movie if it wasn't for the perfect casting of the two brothers. Bringing us to our next actor, last but certainly not least, is Paul Walker. I haven't watched a movie with Paul Walker in a long time, but watching this, it made me realize how much his presence is missed, man. He brings like a calm, cool demeanor to every role he plays. Paul Walker is playing Lewis, the younger, more responsible brother of Fuller. Steve Zahn plays Fuller, by the way. I'm not sure if I said that. Yay, brother road trip. Let's get into how Joyride actually plays out. So we start off with Lewis, who seems to be in like a college dorm, and he's talking to a chick on the phone. Lucky? She's so lucky. She mentions how she needs a ride home from college, I guess after a breakup, and Lewis wants to be the savior. He says that he will give her a ride. And this is where, like, you revisit a movie that you watched as a kid and you didn't pick up on, like, ridiculous stuff like this. He didn't have a car when he offers to pick her up. He says he's going to pick her up. He hangs up. He goes to buy a car. And then he's also driving across the country to pick her up. Simping ain't easy. So on his way to go pick up Venna, he gets a call that his brother, Fuller, is in jail. And you could tell this isn't the first time that Fuller inconvenienced him, because he kind of like debates whether or not he should go and help him. But then I guess he ends up figuring, I mean, come on. What's the worst that could happen? So in the very next scene, we see Lewis in a police station bailing out his brother. And you could tell they don't see each other too often because Fuller, he's like, you're taller than me. So they probably don't see each other much, but I'm assuming it's not because of a bad relationship, because they do have a very jokey relationship right off the bat when they first see each other. The way that we're introduced to Fuller is that he's probably just like a guy who gets in trouble a lot, because he's talking to the cops like, I'm a reformed man, you'll never see me again, and the cops just stand there and kind of shake their head. It's funny because Lewis tells his brother where he's going, across the country to go pick up a girl. And he just kind of like invites himself. He's like, oh, perfect. So remember, this movie is from 2001. So these guys have zero entertainment for a long road trip. Just the radio and conversation. And this seems to be like one of those boring road trips too. This is like no scenery. It's just desert on both sides of the street. So it's going to be a very long ride. So the brothers make an innocent stop at this innocent little truck stop. And Lewis goes to make an innocent little phone call. Meanwhile, his brother is haggling down the mechanic to install a CB radio into his car. I mean, come on, what's the worst that could happen? I mean, I guess you can't really blame him for that at face value. In a world where there wasn't constant communication, this kind of stuff seems very interesting. Like, I could see it being fun on a car ride like this. The way that he ends up using it is really just doing goofy voices. I guess you could consider it sort of like prank calling, but he wasn't doing anything crazy at first. Kind of just like asking if there was cops, on the street for certain miles ahead so that they could drive a little faster. But then, just to have a little bit of fun, he asked his brother, "Hey, can you still do a girl voice?" Just like, I don't know. I thought that was just like a weird question. Like, that's something that stuck with him from their childhood. So he wants him to like flirt with a truck driver just for a laugh. Lewis seems like he doesn't really want to do it, but he gets convinced. I mean, it's his older brother. So he ends up doing the girl voice, and the trucker gets interested. Like, he's like really flirting, like, "So if you had me, like, what are you going to do with me?" And the trucker on the other line, he's shy, but he's into it. Fuller is just sitting in the passenger seat cracking up about it. And in the middle of their conversation, they end up losing signal. I guess they continued their drive until nighttime because the next scene we get is them pulling up to a hotel room, a motel room, hotel, motel, Holiday Inn. So they're pulling up to a motel. What is it, a hotel or is it a motel? I'm dying over here. Help me. The cheap version. Whatever. Okay, so they pull up so that they could get a room. And Fuller parks in a handicapped spot and sort of like limps into the office, which is like, that was funny back then, dude, but now that's not funny. That's not funny right now, right, guys? But um, when he walks in there, there's sort of like an altercation going on already with some racist old guy and the clerk at the hotel. So, and he's just like being a jerk, cussing at the guy, saying he doesn't want people knocking at his door. Fuller kind of tries to butt in and like ease the tension, but it doesn't work. The guy actually ends up getting pissed off at him too. Is like poking him in the chest, and he leaves. Fuller goes to start reserving the room, and they cut back to Lewis in the car, and he's just chilling there, waiting for his brother to come out, and he hears over the CB radio, "Candy cane, candy cane." I can't do it. I can't sound like the guy, so hopefully I could get the audio to put it in. But we're kind of like, okay, we're dealing with a weirdo here. This guy's a creep. Fuller comes back into the car. So Fuller comes back in the car, and Lewis looks a little bit like, what the hell? But Fuller hasn't had enough of his pranks. Fuller needs his prank time. So he somehow convinces Lewis to tell the guy to meet up at the hotel they're at. Fuller saw the asshole guy go into room 117. So he thinks it's a funny prank to tell the trucker Rusty Nail to meet at this hotel at room 117. Knowing that the guy was annoyed with room service knocking at the door, the trucker shows up, knocks at the door, they argue, it's a fun prank. Meanwhile, Lewis and Fuller are in the room directly next to him. So the guy shows up. The trucker shows up there. When they see him pull up, I feel like Fuller is amused. I think Lewis is just shook now. Like, he doesn't want to be a part of it anymore. But this scene ends up getting really tense. So it's just them listening up against the wall of their room to hear what's going on. Because you do hear arguing after the trucker knocks at the door. Then you hear like a bit of struggling, and then you hear it just get silent. I remember watching this scene when I was younger, like scared. Watching it again, it didn't hit me the exact same way. Lewis ends up calling the front desk to report a disturbance. I think they just like knocked at the guy's door and he didn't answer. Or they called. They called the guy's room, he didn't answer. But in the morning, it's a different story. So the two brothers are getting up and getting ready to leave and hit the road again when they run into a sheriff. They find out homeboy next door is in critical condition. What would you do in this situation? So the sheriff is thinking that they had something to do with it. They have to defend themselves in a sense, because they didn't directly do anything, right? But they get like taken down to the station and questioned, and they end up coming coming clean about everything, about exactly what happened. And the sheriff is pissed. Now, this is a moment that I feel like wouldn't happen in real life, but I mean, who knows? It was still a very effective scene. The sheriff is just like, well, how about if I show you guys what the victim looks like? Maybe that'll jog your memory. And he, I guess, drives them to the hospital and brings them to the room of the guy. And he had his jaw completely ripped off. The scene is really haunting. So Steve Zahn's face, this is one of those scenes where you really feel their fear because his face at this moment is just trauma. It's just trauma on his face. You know, we get the typical response from cops in movies when the main characters aren't getting arrested. It's just like, you know how much damn paperwork I gotta do now? Cops always complaining about paperwork for some reason. Then they kick them out of town like the cowboy days. Like, they literally kick them out of town. They say, get out of my town, and they don't want them back. So now the vibe of the movie is completely different. From here on out, the mood is changed. It's no longer like a lighthearted road trip movie. Now they feel like they're on the run, or at very least like they dodged a bullet and they ruined somebody's life. Lewis is driving, right? Fuller is asleep, and over the CB radio you end up hearing Rusty Nail again, asking for candy cane. At this point, fuck the road trip. I'm out. I'm done with this. I'm going to Puerto Rico. Lewis responds trying to get to the bottom of it. He's definitely the more responsible, mature one. He's like even telling him like, I'm sorry, it was a joke. It was just to be funny. Rusty Nail responds with, apologize. He just wants an apology. And Lewis thinks, all right, yeah, let's apologize. But no. Fuller wants to swipe in, take the CB radio, and he starts like cussing the dude out, calling him a loser and a bunch of other bad words. And then Rusty Nail responds with a bomb drop. He responds with the Funk Flex bomb drop. He says, in response to being cussed out, you know, you really need to get that fixed. And Fuller says, get what fixed? Rusty Nail goes, your tail light. They do such a great job in this movie after that line because the tension just rises so much. And I was watching it and I'm like literally feeling it, like, oh shit, I'm feeling what they're feeling. The idea is to just drive as fast as they can, go. But they look down and they're low on gas. So they absolutely have to stop at the next gas station. They're terrified because they know the only way that they could talk on this radio is if this person is in a certain proximity. They pull over into the gas station and they just don't know who Rusty Nail could be, so they're suspicious of everyone. One ice truck pulls up and they feel like it's him. He comes out with like a mallet weapon looking thing and he's walking into the store. So they book it. They leave, and as they leave, we see the ice truck driver come out of the store like he wanted to get their attention. He gets in his car and he's following them. And then they go on like basically a high-speed chase until they come to like a dead-end stop. Then now we're seeing the guy get out of his truck and approach their car, and Fuller is pretending he has a gun like this. Yeah, we're not going to let that slide, bro. We can't let that slide. It actually just turns out to be a really sweet guy who was returning their wallet. He went through hell chasing them. You know, they talk a little bit. The guy gets into his truck, and this actually becomes a pretty famous scene from the movie. As the truck is reversing, doing his K-turn to leave out of the dead-end zone, a big-ass truck comes and blasts through his truck. Now we got a real chase. They are not getting away. They end up spinning out of control and being pressed up against the tree, with Rusty Nail's truck like, picture him just like trying to squish them with his truck. While they're getting crushed, Fuller takes the radio and apologizes. I'm sorry, we were just playing with you. We were just messing with you. And the truck stops squishing them. Rusty Nail responds, well, I was just messing with you too, man. And he reverses and leaves. Lewis is desperate as. Poor Lewis, man. His credit card is racking up right now because he's still got to go pick up this chick. So he stops and gets the body of his car repaired now, so that he could complete his trip to go pick up Venna. Now we're finally picking up Venna. We get introduced to her friend at the same time, she's just saying bye to Venna. I guess maybe they were supposed to travel together, but it didn't end up happening. I don't know, but we do get introduced to this girl, Charlotte. Also, when Venna's walking up, the Fuller looks at her like he likes her, like right off the bat. The weird part is they don't tell her anything. They don't tell her about, being hunted, being in a high-speed chase, almost dying, getting someone's jawbone ripped off. They end up in a motel room that's attached to a bar, and they're getting drunk. They're partying. Lewis, turns it in early for the night. Sneaky little Fuller wants to be a little bitch and go talk to his lady. So he goes down to her room by himself, offering to make her drinks. She kind of refuses a little bit, but gives in because, he's being a charming guy. Now back to Lewis's room. With him sleeping, the phone rings. And it's Rusty Nail on the other line. And he's like, I thought you guys were joking. I thought there wasn't really a girl. Lewis, hops up and he, takes off to Venna's room. And I think that they show he is a little bothered by his brother being in that room, but there's a more pressing issue at hand, which is Rusty Nail has to be watching them from somewhere. So Lewis is basically just trying to tell them that and say that they have to leave right away. And Venna, she's finding all of this out in real time. Now this is where I have a little problem with the movie, and I don't want to sound like I'm nitpicking, but when they leave the hotel, they're driving down the street, in a hurry, and on the street signs there's spray painted. There's a spray painted message from Rusty Nail, but it's on multiple signs. You read it as you're driving down the street. This, this just seems like a bit much. The dude had to go drive past the hotel, pull over, stop at each sign to spell out a message for them to look in the trunk. He would have had to get the CB radio back into their trunk. Oh, which I completely forgot to mention that after they got their car repaired, Lewis threw away the CB radio. It just seems like a lot. So after reading the signs from the omnipresent truck driver, they pull over, they open the trunk, and the CB radio is in there. Which this scene is really well shot. The way that they got the stoplights reflecting on them, it's all red, and they're looking in the trunk. So when they hook up the CB radio and contact Rusty Nail, they find out that he has kidnapped Venna's friend Charlotte. Definitely a tough way for Venna to find out what happened. So Rusty Nail instructs them to go to a specific rest stop and do exactly what he says. His message really is, you guys have to feel the level of embarrassment that I felt. What he ends up wanting them to do at the rest stop is pull over, take your clothes off, walk through the rest stop naked. And while this is happening, he's on a payphone with Venna. But wait, there's more. This is infomercial level payback. So now he's telling them to go down to this cornfield because he wants to meet them, talk to them, I don't know. They go to the cornfield and he just comes and tries to blast them with his truck. He just wants to fucking kill them in this cornfield. But they've run out of the way and they all go into this big cornfield that they're running through where you can't really see. This scene is also a really tense scene because the trucker, he's driving through the cornfields, and at a certain point, they all have to split up. Now, imagine how scary this is, being split up from your friends in a cornfield. You can't talk. You really can't move because now this guy is stopped and he's shining his light. So if you move and he sees the corn move, the corn husks move, then you get got. But Rusty Nail ends up capturing Venna. Lewis and Fuller run back to his car only to see the shit lit on fire. But the CB radio is there, and the last word that Rusty Nail says on the radio is for them to go to yet another location so that they could go get Venna back. Now they're on their way to the final location of this movie, and we see Venna all tied up, and Rusty Nail has a fucking shotgun propped up to the door so that if someone opens it, she ends up getting shot if someone opens the door. And like I said earlier, man, they do such a good job with these high stakes scenes. The way that they're acted and shot you really feel it because now they have to choose between 3 hotel rooms. They don't know exactly which one she's at. And you see them going and opening doors. And you don't know when they're going to get to the right room and open the right door and ultimately probably kill her. Fuller finally has a good idea. When they get to the last hotel, he decides to go around back. Classic sneaking around the back. But he ends up finding the right room and he sees what will happen if Lewis ends up opening the door. But before he can call Lewis to tell him what's going to happen, Rusty Nail grabs him by the mouth and is just trying to rip his jawbone off, I guess. But Fuller slips out. He falls back out of the window and he screams, "Don't open the door." So Lewis hears it and he stops just in time and doesn't open the door. But when he fell back, he landed on a pipe that went straight through his leg, so now he's stuck down. So Lewis now runs around the back so that he could get in through the window, and he sees his brother there on the floor. But now we got another layer of tension because now cops pull up to the hotel, and they start kicking in doors, and they're opening doors, sweeping the area to find out because there was another death reported in the lobby of the hotel room. Rusty Nail killed someone else. So right now we have Lewis trying to get his brother off the ground. Rusty Nail's truck driving towards the room, like towards them, and cops opening doors. And Lewis goes into like superhero mode. He runs in through the window. Just as the cops are opening the door, he moves Venna out the way. So the shotgun goes off but misses. Now he's like, kind of walking backwards, back towards the window. The cops are telling him to stop, but he can't stop. He has to go save his brother. So he gets his brother free, and now the cops are there, and they're kind of telling the cops, like, shoot him, because the truck is coming toward them. So the cops realize, oh shit, this is the bad guy over here who's about to run us over with a truck, and they light up his whip like the cash cab. I got that from a rap battle I used to watch. This movie was shot so well. The tension builds throughout the whole movie, and it is fast-paced. It's not a slow-moving movie, and it's an easy rewatch. It's fun. There's a couple little things I had to look past, like, Rusty Nail being like a supervillain. And I didn't like the whole Fuller's relationship, wanting to have a relationship with the girl also. I thought that was a weird layer that didn't have to be there. But the people I watched the movie with, they disagreed with me and they said it had to be there. I don't know. I just thought it was weird. Now it's time for my favorite segment, Recast Corner, which I hate to recast this movie. This is going to happen a lot on this show, I guess. But you guys know that this doesn't mean we're recasting them because they didn't do a good job. It's just a fun game trying to recast the movie. Yeah, so Paul Walker was great and so was Steve Zahn. This movie wouldn't be great without their dynamic. Let's start with Fuller. If I'm recasting Fuller, I'm going to hit up someone who's funny and would probably be surprisingly good in a thriller. Like, I think I'm picking Charlie Day for that role. Who can compete with Paul? Handsome, cool, handsome. What about the dude? I was thinking, what about the dude from Stranger Things? From Stranger Things Season 2. I think his name is Dacker Montgomery. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. He can probably do it, though. Like, he was a good actor, and he's like the cool, charming guy. Venna is easy. She reminds me of Jennifer Lawrence. Does she remind you guys of Jennifer? Is that too big of a pick, like, star-wise? Just picture, like, a younger Charlie Day, because I really want him in that role. I think that'll be cool. So if this movie left you wanting more road trips gone wrong, my next segment is called Flashback Rental. This is where I suggest movies that you might like based off of this movie. So I'm going to say for this one, for my flashback rental picks, it's going to be The Hitcher and Vacancy. They're both from 2007, and they both give that like scary road trip vibe. The Hitcher is like a movie you're going to have to cut some slack to. It's not that great. It's not as good as Joyride, but Vacancy I think is a movie that that really holds its weight. That one's the better movie out of the two. Now for my rating for Joyride, I'm not going to let my childhood influence my ratings. This is really a fun thriller movie. I think I'm going to be throwing it into my Halloween mix because I haven't watched this movie in a long time and I missed it. Joyride for me is going to get a 4. It's something that I will definitely rent multiple times. Something I'm willing to pay a late fee for. You know, it's a solid movie. If you guys want to know what movie I'm watching on the next episode so that you can watch it with me before the new episode drops, just sign up for my email list. It's linked below. It's just a Substack link. Completely free. We'll be able to talk a little bit more, and you'll be able to see what movies I'm going to pick next. Until next time, be kind, subscribe.